Hi, this is Catherine. I'm a librarian at the Port Orange Regional Library, and I'm here in DeLand, Florida at the Zacharias home to see some alpacas. Let's see what we can find out about alpacas.
Hi, I'm Zoey Zacharias, and I'm here at my family home where I grew up, and these are my alpacas. Welcome to the herd. So alpacas are like llamas, except they're smaller and they produce a little bit more wool. That's what they're really specialized for. And they're also a little bit more skittish. As you'll see, this guy is a little twitchy just because they get a little nervous around new people. So alpacas are like llamas, except they're smaller and they produce a little bit more wool. That's what they're really specialized for. And they're also a little bit more skittish. As you'll see, this guy is a little twitchy just because they get a little nervous around new people.
How many alpacas do you have?
So we have 11 alpacas. We have about half girls, half boys, and we have about 2 or 3 babies at the moment.
Why did you decide to raise alpacas?
So I'm that person who was a little kid who actually asked for a pet, like a really weird pet, and actually got it. Here we are 15 years later with a herd of 11. We started out with 1 and all of a sudden it multiplied, and I've raised them and loved them and trained them ever since.
Is there any money to be made in raising alpacas?
So most alpaca owners I've met like alpaca farmers say they normally break about even, but you can use their wool and you can spin it and you can make stuff out of their wool. And you can actually make some money by selling the wool or selling products made from that wool. But really they're just kind of my hobby.
Tell me more about alpacas.
Okay, so alpacas belong to a group called Ungulata, which it means hooved animals. And if you look at the bottoms of their feet, they have 2 hooves out front, like a peace sign. It's adapted for like mountainous areas with high elevation and relatively dry climates. However, this is Florida. It's hot, it's humid, so they don't really do too well in Florida, but as long as you keep them cool, it's fine.
Are you breeding them on purpose?
So funny story, we actually wanted to stop breeding them once we hit about 8 alpacas, but this guy, he is a special being. He's our herd sire, and he's been gelded 3 times, 3 times unsuccessful. So we have some babies, unexpected babies, surprise babies today. Not today, but a lot. So we're still working on that. We don't know how many parts he has. Oh yeah, I'll just tell you he's a crypt orchid. Whoa. He's fine. You got it. It's okay, bud.
What is his name?
So this right here, this guy's Pine Cone. Sorry. So this guy right here, his name is Pine Cone. He's a herd sire, and he's called a cryptozoo orchid. So that means he has a reproductive abnormalities, and so that's why he's been gelded so many times. That's his son right there. So these guys are kind of like long neck sheep. They're very skittish. They're very fluffy like sheep, except they got long necks, and they have very sweet personalities. So a way how we manage their health is we'll catch them, we'll feel their ribs, we'll take a look at their feet, make sure they're not too long, we'll look at their gums and make sure they're nice and pink and they have color to them. We'll also check their eyelids and make sure that they have a nice pink color, so they're not white or too red, or else that lets us know that they're anemic and there's something else going on. So that's just some of the general, and then we'll also take their temperature when we lift up their tail and check their temperature. So that's just some of the basic care we do, and we'll do checkups about once a week, preferably. We don't actually have a weigh station, so like at big alpaca farms, you'll weigh them like once a week or something, once a week, just to make sure they're maintaining a good weight. So alpacas can suffer from worms, which is really bad because then they get dietary issues. So you really need to make sure you feed them like in buckets, not on the ground. And really you just need to keep them cool, especially in the hot summer. They can't really handle high heat, so you need to keep a sprinkler on them or hose them a couple times a day, or sometimes keep a fan on them too. because it's so hot in Florida. So before we talk about getting an alpaca, the number one rule is alpacas need friends. They do not do well on their own. They need a buddy or else they go crazy. Like people, you know, people get lonely, alpacas also get lonely. Now the average cost, it can, like a nice one is probably, like with papers, is probably about $1,000. We get our guys from like rescues or Craigslist. So our guys are actually, you know, are a little cheaper, like $200 type things. But you know, if you really want to go through an official site and have them like paper and everything, I'd say males are about $500, females are about $1,000. Or because you know you can breed them. And it goes up like more than $1,000. Like they can get super expensive. I think the most expensive alpaca was named Snowball, and he sold for like $1 million or something like that, like in Argentina. It's crazy. So it really just kind of depends. They're not as expensive as horses, but they certainly do. They just certainly can get pricey sometimes. So if you want to have alpacas on acreage, you can do 7 alpacas per acre. So we technically have 7 acres on this property here, and so we could technically have about 49 alpacas. That's a lot of alpacas. Hopefully we don't get up to that number and this guy's done procreating, which I'm very proud. You know, he's a good procreator, but I think we're done about now. Although babies are cute.
She agrees with you.
Probably not. She probably wants one. Although I gotta say, babies are very cute, very adorable. So.
What do alpacas eat?
So our alpacas eat grass, and they also eat horse grain. Sometimes you can get specialized feed for them. You can't have the grain too high in protein, or else it can kind of mess up with their metabolisms and stuff. So really just general horse grain. They love coastal hay. They love peanut hay, but that's a little high in protein for them, so you don't do that too often. We'll do that for our girls who just had a baby, like that little guy right there. But generally just grass, hay, horse feed, and water is what our guys are fed. So, given. And also salt licks are really important too, because they love salt, just like goats. They adore salt, and they'll lick the salt lick faster than the horse. It'll be gone the next day. So as I said earlier, this is our herd sire. This is Pinecone, so he's everyone's daddy, or pretty much, or his dad is everyone's daddy. And then right here we have Sparkles. He's a cria. He's about 1 year old. And then this is our rescue alpaca. This is Peace Lily right here. She's super friendly. She loves potato chips. Only for treats though, not too much. And then this is SJ. Sorry, he gets a little skittish. So that's SJ over there, the little small dark one over here. He's our youngest. He's about 3 months old, so he's still nursing, and he'll be actually weaned here soon, which is separating him from his mom, so he can finally eat big boy food. And then this is Elvis over here, who my friend Sydney is holding. He's about 1.5. And this is he may get a little bigger, but not much. So he's actually one of our smallest alpacas, who's nearing full-grown height right now. But he's still not exactly full-grown, but I don't think he'll get much bigger. So he's definitely pretty small guy. But he's also one of our friendliest. He loves scratches, and sometimes he'll come up to people and he'll just cush right in front of you. Cushing is when they just lay down. So he's very friendly. But back there is Puff Teddy. He's just doing his own thing. He's just hanging out. And then our girls are over yonder on the fence with the horse. So our females is we have Coco, we have Asia. So another big thing with alpacas is because it is Florida and because it is so hot, we do have to shear them about once every 6 months, which is actually very often compared to up north. They normally do it every other year up north, but in Florida it's at least once a year, if not twice a year, because their fur does grow so fast. So that's really important, because if they have all that fur in the summer, it gets really hot. It's like wearing 3 large heavy jackets. So an interesting fact is they don't really have a lot of upper teeth. They do have bottom teeth, and the top of their mouth is kind of like a plate, and they grind food against that plate. And they have molars, which they grind all of the leaves and grass they eat. And it's called cud, which will come back up. It'll come back up later, and they'll chew it. So if you ever see them sitting down and munching, they're chewing the cud from food they ate earlier. So they also have a community poop pile, which so a community bathroom when they all go to the bathroom at the same time, which is pretty funny. So if you walk around the yard, the pasture, you'll find, poop piles, which is very funny. Like we got our 2 babies sharing the bucket of food over there. They love food. They're very food motivated animals, I'll tell you that much.
Can you train them?
Yes. So actually we halter train them. Starting about 6 months, we'll put a training halter on them. And you just got to work with them every day and, give them a hug every day, and eventually they'll calm down and be pretty well adapted. He's a little nervous right now, but he's actually very well behaved. He's halter trained, and then Sparkles, our younger one, he's not halter trained yet because he's about a year. I've been at college, so I haven't had the time. But this guy's trained. I trained him over quarantine. He's very well trained. He's very friendly too. Hello, mister. He still acts like a baby. When he lifts his tail up, that means they're like, I'm a baby, don't hurt me. Or they're just signifying that they're young. But he's really not that young anymore. Oh.
Yeah, but the trick works.
It does. So that's how he gets sympathy from all the other alpacas. He says I'm a baby.
You came home for the weekend.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what school you're going to?
So I go to University of Florida, and my major is wildlife ecology and conservation. And I am currently working at the invertebrates lab at UF. And I'm a rising senior, so I will be graduating here soon. I'm trying to start some research on large grazing mammals. So it is my field of interest, of course, with these guys.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us over today.
Well, thank you for coming over. I'm always happy to have people come and look at my alpacas. It's quite a spectacle, as you can see. And I enjoy them so much. They've brought me so much joy. They've really made my childhood, and they continue to shape my life, and I love them so much. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Allison Zacharias. I'm Zoe's mom. She just introduced you to all of our alpacas over there, and as she told you, they produce a lot of wool, or fiber as we call it. We shear them twice a year because they live in Florida. Very hot, very humid here, so it's conducive to their health to keep them sheared so they don't overheat. So the question is, what do we do with all the wool? Alpacas are like long-necked sheep. They are grown for their fiber. Llamas tend to be more aggressive, more bold. Alpacas tend to be a little bit more skittish and a little bit more standoffish. So anyway, this is an example of the fur that came off of pine cone. When it comes off, it's much messier. It's got leaves and all kinds of detritus in it. So I take it and I send it off to a mill up in Michigan where they card it. Carding means is that they take all the fibers, they run it through a machine so that all the fibers are laying in the same direction, and it pulls out most of the detritus in the fur. Here's a little piece that they missed. So that's the first step. You can see people, sometimes you can run them through a carding machine or actually using these hand combs, but that takes a long time and I don't find that particularly relaxing. So I sent my wool off and they send it back to me and it looks like this. This is called a roving. So you take the roving, and from here we take it and we spin it into a fiber, which will eventually become alpaca yarn. This is my wheel. This is called the Landrum production wheel. And I was going to show you. Do you want to show you how I spin?
Sure.
Okay. So I've actually been taking lessons in this. Much harder than it looks. I was not a natural spinner. So I've actually been working with a lady who is one of the lead spinners at Mount Vernon and at what's the other place? Mount Vernon. Okay, she was one of the lead spinners at Mount Vernon and Williamsburg. So she's been teaching me how to spin. It's the lost craft of spinning. So you take the fibers and you get them started like this. This is called drafting. Get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. And this little act, which seems so simple, has taken me about 1.5 years to learn how to do this. So this takes the fiber and spins it into a yarn. And it creates quite a bit of yarn. Back in the day, before we had mills, it would take 8 spinners to keep up with one weaver. So if you can imagine, This little bit of yarn right here will take me 20 to 30 minutes to spin. So you can imagine how much harder it was to create clothing back then. So that's yay for the Industrial Revolution. As you can see, I pull back and it puts the twist into the fiber, thereby creating yarn. And just a simple little act, which took me a long time to learn how to do it. There's other ways of spinning too, by hand, that are much more labor intensive. But
It looks so relaxing.
it is relaxing. It's fun to do and watch television or hang out with people.
And non-impact exercise.
Yes. Get your calves and toes strong.
How much does a wheel like this cost, roughly?
This was about $900, handmade in Canada. So I like it because it's small, it's compact, it's a very efficient spinning wheel. So this is definitely not like the Cinderella version of spinning wheels. You know, and as you notice, there's no needle on it. There's all these interesting parts to it. There's the flyer and the pedals, and I can't remember all the other names to it. And so then when I get done spinning, I just cut it off like that and let it sit till I'm ready to spin again. And of course, I'm wearing all the fur from the alpacas now.
I had a great time learning about alpacas from Zoe and learning what to do with their wool from Allison. If you would like to learn more, check your local library.